TNT Open Mind Insights brings you powerful, authentic conversations, illuminating the path to better mental health care for all.
Welcome, Janelle Watson. I am so excited to speak with you today. This particular topic is very close to my heart. I have personal experience with it, and I'm just really interested in digging into your knowledge base on this topic and sharing it with our audience. So, Janelle, you are a highly sought after perinatal mental health expert. You do speaking, you do your own therapy practice with Embrace Wellness. You are a partner with Maternal Mental Health Now and on their Black Birth Workers Advisory Council. So lots of wealth of expertise. This isn't even all of your resume. This is just the cliff notes. So I just really an honor to have you. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I'm going to share a bit about myself before we get into what you have to share. I am a mother of two kiddos, 11 years old and 5 years old. I've been a volunteer doula myself, so into the birth work a little bit. And I was afraid to become pregnant
Mm,
because my family had a history of postpartum depression and psychosis, even. One of my family members was hospitalized for several months for that. So I was afraid, is it going to affect me? Because I had my own mental health challenges as well. And it, in fact, did affect me after my first child, where I began to slip into psychosis. But I had the support of a woman's health center that recognized what was happening, was able to get me on the medication that I needed, and was able to keep me out of the hospital and with my baby.
mm,
And so I had the support. And a lot of people don't have that support. And that support is so critical because anything surrounding perinatal, whether it's, the mother, the father, or the birthing person, it's stressful. It is stressful. Your whole identity is changing. You've got all these demands that are placed on you. Your career is affected. There's just so much that goes into that. So, before we jump into your expertise, I just want to know a little bit more about why is this work so important and special and close to your heart?
Ah, it's so important in general because when you talk about starting a family, when you talk about growing your family, most people don't think about the things that could come up that are anything other than we're pregnant, baby
Mhm.
bump, baby's here, we're thriving as parents. And there's so much that happens in between that I think people aren't either allowed to think about because they're wanting to be so happy about this blessed event. For some, it's not so blessed.
Mm.
And I think that it's just really important that people think about the whole picture. I'm a very big whole picture person. I think anybody who's worked with me knows that I'm huge on prevention. So thinking about things before they happen or things that you
Mhm.
could prepare for,
Mhm.
but also thinking about how it could impact you as a whole. So not just only the great things about it, and I'm going to ignore the potentially difficult things. I want you to think about everything. So
Mm.
that is really how I approach my work. And so, of course, that's how I think about the birthing space and working with my clients who are in their perinatal period.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what drew you to this field?
Well, I started my career after undergrad. I started working as a sexual and reproductive health educator and trainer. And so that was such a cool job. I
Mhm.
got to go into middle schools and high schools and talk about sexuality education. I got to talk to them about relationships and consent and power dynamics and all of these great things.
Yeah.
But I realized that when I did that, I also wasn't able to reach people on an individual level. It was only in a classroom or a larger scale presentation level. So I wanted to do something that was more individual,
Hmm.
which is what brought me to be a therapist. It's like, okay, therapists, we're one on one or with a couple or with a family, and getting to really get in to what their concerns were
Mhm.
with a lens of sexual health.
Mhm.
Because I know that if you can talk about sexual health with somebody, you could talk about anything, really.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
kind of taboo topic, it's lightweight if you could talk about sexual health. So
Mhm.
talking about it on an individual level got me a really good picture of people's personal lives and what they were dealing with when they were going into these classrooms and wanting to talk about this on a large scale. So it's like, I'm only
Mhm.
scratching the surface by talking to you in a classroom. I want
Yeah.
to know what's going on personally.
Mhm.
And through those personal accounts, I was like, wow, people really don't have a lot of information, or they don't have a space where they can talk about these things.
Mhm.
And then over the years, I started to work more with people who were in the pregnancy space, be it they want to get pregnant, they can't get pregnant, they're pregnant when they don't want to be, lots of things. And so having those conversations with those men and women, it's like, wow, there is something here. And so I
Mhm.
started to niche down my practice into things having to do with pregnancy. And that's what brought me to perinatal mental health.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, for some people are wondering, what's perinatal? Is that before? Is that after? Can you explain
Yeah,
that?
I can. It's funny because perinatal, if you really widen it, perinatal is almost lifelong. But
Yes, I would agree with that.
perinatal is almost lifelong because
Yeah.
perinatal essentially is the period before becoming pregnant, during pregnancy, and about maybe a year
Mhm.
postpartum is
Mhm.
technically what the perinatal
Technically,
period is.
yes.
But if you're talking about before getting pregnant, how before are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is it a year before? Is it a moment before? Is it 5 seconds before the stick turns blue or has those two lines? Before is a relative term. And so when you're talking about perinatal mental health and you're talking about securing some understanding and also some education or planning, you could be talking about teenagers, you could be talking about adults, you could be talking about people who maybe have had a particular experience with either their pregnancy or someone else's pregnancy and they're battling a lot of stereotypes, a lot of fears. You talked about
Mhm.
fears earlier.
Mhm.
You know, that is about perinatal mental health. So it's not even just I already have an experience with postpartum depression, let's say. Let's say I witnessed a traumatic birth. Let's
Mhm.
say I was a partner who we had a loss and I'm not sure
Mhm.
how to wrap my mind around what happened. All of
Yeah.
those things have to do with perinatal mental health.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you want providers to really know and understand about perimental or perinatal mental health? Because I've experienced the difference between providers that they're like, "Ooh, we got to pass you off to someone,"
Mhm. Mhm.
or the ones that say, "Hey, let's," that have some kind of knowledge base. So what can you share? Like, I know it's a big topic, but Cliff
Yeah.
Notes version that they should be aware of about the perinatal mental health experience.
I would say first and foremost, I would say take a moment to assess your own comfort with the topic and your own knowledge base with the topic. And this is absolutely no shame as to whether or not you are really comfortable with it or uncomfortable, or you find that you don't really know a whole lot about it. I say start there because then you'll know what to do. When somebody comes to you and they have a concern, you might need to refer out. And I
Mhm.
know we don't like to think of, well, I'm just going to pass you over to somebody else, but that might be the best thing that you could
It
do in
could
that
be if you don't have
situation.
the education.
If you don't have the expertise, if you don't have the information, but you know somebody who does, that would be the best thing you could do for that person.
Mhm.
In giving them a referral to someone, make sure it's a warm referral. Make sure it's somebody
Mhm.
you actually know. Maybe you've spoken to them, you're familiar with their work, as opposed to just kind of Googling somebody and saying, well, they have perinatal written here somewhere, so I guess you can go to them.
Yeah.
So let's bring back the warm handoffs as opposed to the cold Google search.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that.
so assessing your own knowledge base and your comfort, understanding what your resources are, who they are, and that you're connecting them to somebody. So that I would say would be the first thing before you even crack a book, in my opinion. Beyond that, if you're wanting to increase your ability to connect with your patients or clients, I would say grab as much information as you can. A really great place to go would be PSI, Postpartum Support International.
Okay,
That's where
very
I
nice.
trained. That's where I got my certification as a perinatal mental health provider. They have a lot of information about perinatal mental health. They have a lot of information about support groups and things like that. I would also say when you have patients or clients coming to you about this, understand that it is not easy to talk about.
Mm,
It is not easy to just kind of walk into your doctor's office and say, hey, I'm really concerned about this. I'm really concerned about how my thoughts are coming up about my baby.
yes.
Because the first thing that people will jump to is that they're going to take my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to want to talk to anybody about it because it's going to result in them taking my baby out of my arms. I'm never going to see them again.
Mm-hmm.
And in the majority of the cases, that is actually not what happens. What happens
Yep.
is resources need to get connected. What
Yeah.
happens is your village needs to get activated and you will connect with people you know, maybe people you don't know yet, maybe they're
Yeah.
providers, but that can't happen if you don't talk.
Yeah.
And if you talk and the reception that you get is punitive or judgmental
Scary. Yeah.
or cold or dismissive, that person will likely not talk again.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
would be heartbreaking.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. And that's, I think there's also this, I mean, is it stigma or just that story that we tell? Because we have this story in our
Mhm.
mind of postpartum depression leads to a mother then harming her child.
Right.
And
Right.
there's, that could happen
Mhm.
potentially, but that's not usually going to be the case. I mean,
No.
for me, when I had my experience, there was no harming my child, but like the thoughts were bizarre.
Yeah.
They were like, I'm leaving and I don't know where I'm going.
Mhm.
And this
Yes.
made me like I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. Like
Mhm.
weird stuff that I couldn't explain. So I think there's more variety in a postpartum experience than that one story that's on repeat in our heads.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And it doesn't help that in the news, when you hear things that are happening, it seems like, oh, this is something that happens all the time. And
Hmm.
whenever there's something that goes on, and whenever there's a heartbreaking, tragic story about this, and postpartum, even the word postpartum even comes up, it's like, oh, well, there it is again. It's happening again. Postpartum psychosis is actually pretty rare,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
postpartum depression, anxiety, that is something that happens more often than
Yeah.
psychosis would. But a lot of times, it is really something that can be managed and dealt with by communicating, by tapping into some resources, by using coping skills, things like that. Connecting with a mental health provider, connecting with, if you're religious, with a religious leader or
Yeah.
someone in your community. There are a lot of ways that people can get help with this.
Hmm.
And if they're talking about it early, getting help with it when it's really just a tiny occurrence, when it's
Yeah.
baby blues, when it's,
I
yeah.
feel like if we could normalize that,
Mm.
then it wouldn't get as bad as it is because I'm sure everyone, obviously, everyone's experience is different. But for
Mhm.
me, as an American,
Mhm.
our American culture is that we have these family units and we
Mhm.
should be just okay in our unit.
Mhm.
But if we widen the view of who's responsible for caring for that child and that mother or the birthing person,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden there's a community that will come and support. And I've found that when you ask for help, like, will you help me come take care of my baby so that I can take a shower or I can do this or whatever? Like, people usually want to do
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
But we have this idea that we shouldn't have to ask.
Oh, people will should on themselves
Yeah.
so much. Like, I should be able to handle this.
Yeah.
I'm this baby's mother. I should be able to do this. I should be able to do that. Or you might have a partner. Let's say if your partner is male, I should be able to protect my partner from this.
Hmm.
I feel so out of control. I should be able to stand in and support my partner through this. I don't have what my partner needs in order to get through this. Am I failing as a partner? Am I failing as a dad? Am I failing as a mom? It's so many messages about what it is that you're supposed to be doing.
What it's supposed to look like.
Right.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's supposed to look like what it looks like.
Yeah.
It looks like what it looks like. And that's what we're dealing with, as opposed to this fantasy of what we thought it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because it was supposed to be easy. It
Yeah.
was never going to be easy. I don't know who
It
told you
was
that, but it was never
never
going to
gonna
be
be
easy.
easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just insane, and then the sleep deprivation alone is enough to drive most people
It
crazy, to be
is.
honest.
It is. And it's so valid. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, when we are in these bubbles, we think we're the only ones who are going through it,
Mhm.
or we think we're the only ones who are struggling to this level. And to
Mhm.
be fair, social media plays into a lot of that because all we see are these typical ideal finished
Mhm.
product,
Mhm.
polished ways of looking as a family. And I'm not saying that they're not authentic. I'm not saying that there aren't families out there that are that put together, but realize that the stuff that we're seeing as we scroll are curated images that are intentionally placed there.
Yeah,
You
for a
know,
reason.
everything is
There's a
put there
reason.
for a reason.
Yeah.
So if it looks perfect, if it looks, oh, this family getting together and we're gonna go on a road trip and everybody's in the car, nobody's tired, nobody's hungry, nobody's screaming. It's just
Yeah.
great. And we drove 17 hours straight and we're going on our family vacation. Cool
Yeah.
story, but that's not what everybody experiences.
Mhm.
But somebody who might be feeling doubtful as a parent or feeling inadequate or feeling like, oh my God, that's not what my reality is, it can be detrimental.
Mhm.
So it's also managing what is around you. Who is your village? Because if your village is also your social media village,
Mm.
we got to check that.
We
We
gotta
have to
check.
make
We have
sure.
to be intentional about. I think the social media is a double-edged sword. I've
Yeah.
actually learned quite a bit
Mm.
on. Well, I'm a TikTok fan, so I get a
Yes.
lot. I learn a lot about psychology on
A
TikTok. I'm gonna
hundred
be
percent.
honest. There's great conversations back and forth going on there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of like, what kind of algorithm do you get yourself into?
Yes.
'Cause
Yes.
you can get yourself into some not so good. You got to take some responsibility about what you're intaking
Mm-hmm.
too, and how it's affecting your mental state.
You're absolutely right. It can be so helpful and provide access to things that maybe you didn't have access to. Not to mention, and not to put celebrities or whatever on a pedestal, but when you hear people talking about experiences with miscarriage, experiences with endometriosis, experiences with postpartum issues, it's helpful because it helps to normalize, like, oh, this is an experience that I could have, or I did have it, and other people have had it. It's not just me.
Yeah.
And I think pulling it out of the "it's not just me" space increases the likelihood that you would talk about it,
Yeah,
because then
absolutely.
people are familiar with it as well, and you're not, like, shocking them because you said, "I had this weird thought. I had this strange thought the other day." They're not like, "Give me the baby." No, absolutely not.
I
It's like,
know.
well, it was
Yeah.
it was a thought. It was,
Yeah. Yeah.
thoughts are not actions.
Mhm.
It's but we need to be talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would our world look like in your in Janelle's world
Mhm.
if you were to design, like, this is what our communities would look like around the perinatal experience? What would that be?
Ooh, you wanna give me that power?
Yes, I do, in fact.
I would love it if people would suspend the shoulding,
Mhm.
that there's no expectation of what things should be like, and more attention to staying grounded in what is happening. Not, future forecasting, not catastrophizing, but what is happening 10 toes on the ground right now, and people having a willingness to work together to achieve whatever goal that is, and using their expertise to move forward as opposed to standing in judgment. And so, what I mean by that is you have doctors, you have nurses, you have providers who are interested in hearing people's stories and helping them get from point A to point B, as opposed to saying things like, well, why didn't you say that sooner? Well, why didn't
Mm.
you do that like this? Well, why would you? It's like, okay. Or you could listen and take it in, and then let's plan something together. On the flip side, we're talking about the patient and their personal community. Again, the judgment, it really does get in the way.
Yes.
There's no one way to have a family. There's no one way to be pregnant. There's no one way to experience postpartum. So, being connected to people's actual stories that are in front
Mhm.
of you, remembering that this is a person that you love and care about, not
Mhm.
somebody that you are looking to judge or to point your finger at or to say, I told you so, or to impose what you did onto them. That's great if it worked for you. It doesn't seem to be working for me. And so let's let that go and adjust and deal with what is happening now. So I
Mhm.
guess if there was an overarching wish that I would have is that people stay grounded in what is happening and what we're looking at rather than looking everywhere else.
What it should be.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
what it should be.
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's this whole idea of what it should be for sure. Big
Yeah.
time. And parents put a ton of pressure on themselves. And can we talk just a little bit about what are the consequences of the shoulds and the sweeping it under the rug and providers not having a knowledge base or not being connected on where to refer. Like, what are the consequences of not addressing this
You know,
properly?
the first word that comes to my mind is loneliness, is
Mm,
isolation.
yeah.
It creates, instead of having a community of people who are rallying around you, you feel this sense of separation and people don't understand. People are not listening to me. They're not going to get it. They're going to judge me. And so I'm just going to keep it to myself. And when we keep it to ourselves or we try to ignore it, I usually give this analogy about the boogeyman,
Mhm.
that, when you're a kid and you're scared in your room and it's dark and you look over and you think there's a monster in the closet. And so you've created this folklore about this monster in the closet and you're so scared and you're paralyzed and you don't want to move or anything, right? As you let that go on, the monster just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more mysterious. But the moment somebody walks in, turns the light on, opens the
Mm,
closet,
mhm.
it's gone. You
Interesting.
see it's a pile of clothes. You see that it's nothing. So I think that that silence and that isolation just grows the monster.
Yeah,
It just makes it so much bigger. It just makes it so much more powerful
yeah,
because there's so much unknown. And so it's just adding to the folklore of
yeah,
this monster
yeah,
that is
absolutely.
postpartum depression, anxiety, psychosis, intrusive thoughts, or worries about judgment from people, or am I not going to be able to get a job now because I can't get it together? Am I never going to sleep again? Am I never
Yeah,
going
you're
to?
going down this road and
Yes.
it's just
And it's just
building that, yeah,
unknown
uh-huh.
spiral of fearful future. And
Yeah.
you're tethered to nothing. You're grounded in nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and then you're sleep deprived on top of
hmm
it.
And you have to take care of a tiny human
Yeah,
being
it's a lot.
who insists to be taken care of
Yes.
and does not speak English and does not
I
speak a language
know,
that
it's
you understand.
impossible.
And it's like, do it now.
Yeah.
And you have people coming by saying, oh, hey, I want to see the baby. Oh, I don't exist anymore. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I need help with the laundry. Oh, I really want to just hold the baby. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
But we haven't done dishes in like a week. Can you help me with that? No, I just want to see. Okay, cool.
Wow, yeah,
Not listening,
yeah,
isolated, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I love that metaphor of
hmm
the monster. That is huge, and I remember because I was going down that
Mm,
rabbit hole too, and just like this nurse practitioner was like, "Oh, that's what this is.
hmm
Here's a medication. It's
hmm
breastfeeding safe.
hmm
It's gonna be okay."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the snowball's not building up. You're like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay."
It's gonna be okay.
And guess what? 2 days later,
It was okay. And it was okay.
it
And
was
it's
okay.
amazing when, and I say this sometimes to my clients, where they're really worried about doing something or, something happening, and then when we get past it and they come back and they want to talk about something else, I'm like, no, 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 no.
Let's
Let's talk about that thing.
let's finish
We
this
were
up.
worried
Yeah,
about that
uh-huh.
thing. What happened? Oh, nothing happened. I said, stop. Say that again.
Yeah.
Well, nothing happened. Say that one more time. Nothing
Yeah.
happened.
Wow.
And it was fine. And it
Yeah.
was okay.
Yeah.
And I want you to catalog that for the next time that something seemingly big happens and you think it's going to be the end of the world. Remember, the last time you had this feeling, nothing happened. So it's possible that nothing may happen.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Put that on the list
Yeah.
too.
But I think we need each other, whether it's a friend or a family member or a provider or any
hmm
person that's gonna give you that perspective when you're sleep deprived.
hmm
When
hmm
you're because it's just not a normal mental state anyway.
Yes. Yes.
You're a bit in a fog,
hmm
and I think that parents that are in the trenches, they absolutely need people that are not in a fog
hmm
to help them mentally.
Well, and it's funny you say that because another piece of what I'm doing right now is I'm in a human sexuality PhD program.
Hmm.
And my desired study is around how the postpartum period and perinatal really impacts non-birthing partners,
Oh,
because I would
interesting.
love for my field of study or my attention in my practice too to be shifted to the village, to be
Yes.
shifted to the support people, to the family members, to the greater, people who are in this birthing person's life, because it's great to focus on that. And please, yes, continue funding, continue attention on birthing people. We also need to look at around them. What's
Yes.
happening around them? How are we shifting the community and the world around them? Because I can do all the work in the world with this one person, but if the environment does not shift too,
Mhm.
you're gonna be hard pressed
Yeah.
to really shift things in a in a meaningful way. So
Yeah.
everybody else needs to get some of this too.
That makes
It's not
sense.
the heavy lifting is not just on the birthing person, it's also on the well-meaning aunt who says, "Oh, it's okay. You were only 6 weeks pregnant anyway, right?
Oh
You
gosh.
guys can
Yeah.
start again, in a couple of weeks." It's like, "Okay.
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah.
saying that, please."
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a culture. It's all the system that's around. We are so interconnected.
Yes, I would love to shift the culture of the birthing space.
Yeah, me too.
The magnet hands that wanna reach out and touch somebody's pregnant belly, or, all of these
Mhm.
other things that we've normalized as like, "Oh, well, that's just what you deal with when you're pregnant," or somebody finds out that you're trying to get pregnant, or even asking, "So are you trying?" Stop that.
That's not an
Stop
appropriate
that.
question.
Please stop that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I think things are shifting. What do you think?
I think they are. I think
Yeah,
that they are shifting with more narratives being shared. And I think
yeah,
going back to social media, I think that has a lot to do with it too. People are very transparent about their stories and not just sharing the flowery side of things.
yeah.
And also not just sharing either the flowery or the traumatic,
Mhm.
because there's also so much in between those things. And that's where the majority of people will probably lie, is somewhere in between very, very easy and very, very, I would never do this again. You couldn't pay me to do this again. And I think that that is a shift that we're starting to see because people are being more authentic with their
Yeah,
stories.
that helps. Yeah.
That is really because so many new parents have said things like, nobody ever told me it was like this. You have a whole host of people saying, have a baby, have a baby, have a baby. You didn't tell me about this. You didn't tell me. I think one of the big ones was like, you didn't tell me I could poop on the table.
Oh my gosh,
Like
yeah.
you didn't tell me about these. And it's like, oh, yeah, 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 that happened.
Yeah.
Tell more authentic stories. I think we're getting closer to that.
Yeah. I
So
think that is the
keep
direction.
keep evolving, keep moving in
Yeah.
that direction because having a much more authentic experience with birthing, I think will give you more enthusiastic participants in that birthing space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we touch on too some of the populations specifically that you have expertise in, because there's disparities.
Hmm.
There's really important, drastic disparities in the Black community, and then also with transgender folks and whatnot that you are serving. So we've got medical professionals here. I mean,
Hmm.
listening to these interviews, like what can you share with them to be a part of the solution? Because I think we're beginning to be aware that there are these disparities,
Hmm.
but these tragedies just keep occurring where people are going in, they're sharing concerns and they're brushed off and then they
Yeah.
die.
Yeah. Absolutely. Within the Black community, I'll even share one piece of this, the disparity being that, complications during birth, having to have C-sections, delivering early, all of these things are very, very high among Black women. And it's important to point out that it is not a socioeconomic thing. It is through all socioeconomic statuses that this statistic is significantly higher.
Okay.
And I think that my advice or my encouragement of providers would be the same as the last recommendation I gave. What is your own personal capacity and understanding about the person or population that you're working with? Because if it's small, slim to none, get some resources, get connected with people who can help you help them, and listen to your patients and your
Mhm.
clients. So when you have somebody who comes in and says, something doesn't feel right, I need you to respect that. I
Yes.
need you to respect that the same way that if your own mother came in and said something doesn't feel right. Do you know
Yes.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not just, oh, I need to get through this, 15 minutes, whatever it is. And don't get me wrong, I understand that there are constraints and a system that is not conducive to having a lot of intimate time with you and your patient. And I acknowledge that. However, it's not equivalent across the board.
Yeah.
So that same rush 15 minutes that you have with your cis white patient is the same 15 minutes that you have with your trans Black patient. And I
Mhm.
need the quality of those 15 minutes to be the same. I need you to ask the same
Such a
kind
good
of
point.
questions. I need you
Such a
to
good
ask
point.
the same type of follow ups. I need you to give the same kind of resources. So the person that's in front of you, really hone in and ground yourself with who is in front of you, not the next one that you need to see, not the last one that you saw. I know that it's difficult, especially if that last one is still weighing on you and maybe it's getting in the way of you being able to be present with this one. That is definitely a system issue. That is definitely something to maybe address clinic wide or wherever you're working. But whatever it is that you need to do to be in the room with that person is going to increase that exponentially. See that
Yeah.
person for who they are, see that person for what they're here for, and really
Mhm.
take into account what they're telling you because
Yeah.
they are the expert on what's going on in their body, not
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
They know what that is.
Yeah, and here we also see that intersection of mental and physical health
Hmm.
too, because if people's physical concerns are not being taken seriously, that's also going to affect their mental health and feeling
Absolutely.
depressed and anxious because they weren't heard.
Absolutely. And mental health providers and medical providers need to be hand in hand. We need to be allies. We need to have connections. You should have a Rolodex. I'm aging myself by saying Rolodex, but a Rolodex of mental health providers that you refer to. And again, people you actually know, people you've had a relationship with, people you've had a coffee with, whatever, so that you're able to make those connections so that they're getting as high a quality of care as they can.
And the handoff.
And the
Yeah.
warm handoff,
Yeah, it makes
yes.
all the difference because a lot of referrals are not followed up on.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there any final thoughts you'd like to share as we kind of wrap around? We covered so much
We
and there's
did.
so much more to
We
it. Yeah.
we did. I think the theme of what we've talked about today is I need us as a whole to be as grounded in the present as we can and really make connections with people, with their stories, with what's going on, because that's going to inform the care. That's going to
Mhm.
inform the support. That's going to inform how this village is going to rally around that person. It has to be based off of what is happening with this person currently so that we can then respond
Yeah.
rather than reacting to what we know, rumor has it, about what you should do in
Yeah.
this situation.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
such a good point. Well, thank you so much for coming to speak with us.
my
It's such
pleasure.
a valuable conversation. And, it's my thought that we've got to support parents as they're raising children because the children are the next one. Like the children are also affected, and it
Mm,
just gets trauma is passed down.
that's
From
a
person to
whole other
person. That's a
interview.
whole other interview. But like, you
Yeah,
can't just see it as it's the trauma of the parent because then it just goes into the next generation if it's not addressed. So,
yeah,
um, anytime we support a parent, it's gonna ripple in a positive way.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.